My sister texted, "Don't even think about coming. You and your kid just embarrass us." I didn't reply. I just logged into the banking app and pressed cancel. A week later, on her wedding day, everything began to fall apart. "My name is Harper and I need to tell you something that's been eating at me for weeks now. You know that feeling when you're scrolling through your phone and suddenly your entire world just stops? That's what happened when I saw my sister's text. Don't even think about coming. You and your kid just embarrass us." I stared at those words until they blurred. My 3-year-old daughter Emma was sleeping peacefully in the next room, completely unaware that her own aunt had just called her an embarrassment. Me. I was apparently the family shame. A single mother working 2 jobs, living in a modest apartment, driving a 10-year-old Honda. But here's what my sister Natalie didn't know. I was the one who had paid for her entire wedding. Every single thing. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer. All charged to the joint account our late father had left us, with me as the primary administrator. She thought Dad had set up some trust fund that automatically paid for everything. She had no idea I was the one approving every transaction. Do you think she deserved to know the truth right then? Or was I right to stay silent? Let me back up a bit. Natalie and I used to be close. We shared secrets, borrowed each other's clothes, stayed up late talking about our dreams. That was before I got pregnant at 22 with a man who disappeared the moment he saw those 2 pink lines. Mom had already passed away from cancer 2 years earlier, and when Dad found out about my situation, I saw the disappointment in his eyes, even though he tried to hide it. He died of a heart attack when Emma was just 6 months old, and suddenly I was completely alone with a baby and 2 part-time jobs just to keep us afloat. Natalie was 19 when Dad died, still in college, still living her perfect life. Dad's will left us both equal shares of his estate, but he made me the administrator because I was older and, as he put it, more responsible. The irony wasn't lost on me. The account had enough for both of us to live comfortably if we were smart about it. I used my portions sparingly, just for emergencies and Emma's necessities. Natalie, on the other hand, treated it like her personal ATM. When she got engaged to Preston last year, she was over the moon. Preston came from money. His family owned a chain of car dealerships across the state. Natalie was determined to have a wedding that would impress his family. She started planning this elaborate affair. A waterfront venue, a designer dress, a reception for 200 guests. Every week I'd get notifications about new charges. $5,000 for the venue deposit. $3,000 for the dress. $8,000 for catering. I approved every single one because she was my sister and I thought, this is what Dad would have wanted. He'd want her to be happy. But somewhere along the way Natalie changed. Or maybe she'd always been this way and I just hadn't noticed. She started making little comments whenever we got together. "Must be nice not having to worry about your appearance when you're just going to work at a grocery store," she'd say with a laugh that was supposed to make it sound like a joke. Or, "I don't know how you do it, Harper. If I had to live in a place that small, I'd lose my mind." She'd pat Emma's head and add, "Poor thing. At least she won't remember growing up with so little." I tried to brush it off. I told myself she was just stressed about the wedding, that she didn't mean to be cruel. But it got worse. 3 months ago she stopped inviting me to dress fittings and cake tastings. "It's really more for the bridal party," she'd say. "You wouldn't be interested anyway." The bridal party that she'd asked our cousin Melissa to be in but not me. Melissa, who she'd complained about for years. But Melissa had a nice house and a husband who worked in tech, so suddenly she was worthy of being a bridesmaid. Then came the engagement party at Preston's parents' house. It was this massive estate with manicured lawns and a view of the lake. Natalie had insisted I come, said it would be weird if I wasn't there. I scraped together money for a new dress. Nothing fancy, just something from Target that didn't look like I'd worn it to a million grocery store shifts. I brought Emma, who was excited to see her aunt and wore her favorite princess dress. We walked in and I immediately felt out of place. Everyone was dressed like they'd stepped out of a country club catalog. Preston's mother, Diana, looked me up and down with barely concealed distaste. Natalie rushed over and I thought she was going to greet us, but instead she whispered urgently, "Harper, Emma's dress is too loud. Can you maybe keep her in the back? Diana's friends are here and, you know." I know. Know what? That my daughter wasn't good enough to be seen? But I bit my tongue. I nodded. I took Emma to a quiet corner and let her play with her toys while I made small talk with distant relatives who clearly had no idea what to say to me. That's when I overheard it. Natalie was talking to Preston's sister, Courtney, near the patio doors. "Honestly, I'm mortified," Natalie said. "I love Harper, I do, but she doesn't understand how to present herself. And that kid is always making noise or getting into things." I specifically told the venue coordinator to seat them in the back during the reception where they won't be as visible in photos. My Aunt Beverly found me 20 minutes later, tears streaming down my face in the bathroom. Aunt Beverly was Mom's younger sister, and she'd been more of a mother to me since Mom died than anyone else. She held me while I sobbed and then she said something I'll never forget. Harper, baby, being blood doesn't give anyone the right to treat you like you're less than. Your mama would be furious if she saw how Natalie's acting. And your daddy? He'd be heartbroken. But she's all I have, I whispered. Aunt Beverly pulled back and looked me straight in the eye. No, you have me. You have Emma. And you have yourself. That girl in there? She's not the sister you grew up with anymore. Sometimes people show you who they really are and you have to believe them. I thought about Aunt Beverly's words for weeks after that party. And then a week before the wedding, Natalie's text came through. I was at work stocking shelves during my evening shift when my phone buzzed. Don't even think about coming. You and your kid just embarrass us. Preston's family will be there and I can't have you making us look bad. I'll send you pictures. I stood there in the cereal aisle reading those words over and over. My hands started shaking. What did I do? I walked to the back of the store, pulled up the banking app on my phone, and looked at the list of upcoming scheduled payments. Venue final payment, $15,000. Caterer, $12,000. Photographer, $5,000. Florist, $4,000. DJ, $2,500. Dress alterations, $800. The wedding was in 8 days. I pressed cancel. On every single one. I didn't reply to Natalie's text. I didn't call her. I just went home, hugged Emma extra tight and waited. Imagine what I was feeling in that moment. Was it rage? Relief? Guilt? All of the above. I honestly wasn't sure if I'd made a terrible mistake or finally stood up for myself. Very soon I'd find out, and let me tell you, I was not prepared for what happened next. The first call came 3 days before the wedding. It was 6 a.m. and my phone exploded with Natalie's ringtone. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. And another. By the time I got Emma ready for daycare, I had 17 missed calls and a dozen texts that went from confused to panicked to absolutely hysterical. Harper, the venue says the payment didn't go through? Call me now. What is happening? Dad's account was supposed to cover everything. Harper, please, this isn't funny. I didn't respond. Was that cruel of me? Maybe. But I kept thinking about that text. You and your kid just embarrass us. How was I supposed to forget that? Aunt Beverly came over that evening with Thai food and wine. I heard Natalie's been calling everyone in the family trying to find you, she said, setting the containers on my kitchen table. Diana apparently had a complete meltdown when the caterer called about payment. Good, I said, and I meant it. What are you going to do? I shrugged. Nothing. She uninvited me, remember? Not my circus anymore. Aunt Beverly smiled. Your mama would be proud. Took you long enough to grow a spine where that girl's concerned. 2 days before the wedding, Natalie showed up at my apartment. I heard the pounding on the door during Emma's bedtime story. I knew it was her. No one else knocked like that, like they owned the place. I opened the door. Natalie looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, mascara smudged under her eyes, wearing yoga pants and one of Preston's hoodies. What did you do? She whispered. Me? Nothing. I've been right here where I was told to stay. The payments, Harper. Everything bounced. The venue threatened to cancel. The caterer wants cash up front now. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you think I felt guilty looking at her like that? Honestly, I didn't. Not even a little. I got your text, I said calmly. The one where you uninvited me. Where you called my daughter an embarrassment. So I figured you didn't need my help anymore. Her face went white. You did this on purpose? I pressed cancel. So, the money's still there, Natalie. Dad left it for both of us. But I'm not paying for a wedding I'm not welcome at. You're insane. This is my wedding. And Emma is my daughter. I shot back. She's 3 years old and you called her an embarrassment. What kind of aunt does that? Natalie's eyes filled with tears. Preston's family. They have expectations. Diana said. I don't care what Diana said. I don't care about impressing people who look down on us. I'm your sister. Or I was. She stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish. Finally, she whispered, I can't fix this in 2 days. We'll have to cancel everything. Then cancel it. Harper, please. I'm sorry about the text. I was stressed, I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every word. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to finish reading my embarrassing child her bedtime story. I closed the door in her face. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful for the first time in months. Emma called from her room. Mommy? Who was that? Nobody important, sweetie. The next day, Aunt Beverly told me the family was in chaos. Natalie had somehow scrambled together enough money from Preston's parents to save the venue and caterer, but they'd had to downsize everything. No flowers. A cheaper photographer. The guest list cut in half. Preston's mother was apparently mortified, and kept asking how Natalie could have mismanaged things so badly. Natalie sent one more text. I hope you're happy. You ruined everything. I replied for the first time, no. You did that yourself. Wedding day arrived. I took Emma to the park, got ice cream and didn't think about waterfront venues or designer dresses. But around 2 p.m. my phone rang. It was Melissa, my cousin. Harper, you need to know something. The wedding's a disaster. And that's when things got really interesting. What Melissa told me next. I never saw it coming and neither did Natalie. The groom didn't show up, Melissa said breathlessly. Preston's gone. No one can find him. I almost dropped my phone. What do you mean gone? He left a note at his parents' house this morning. Said he couldn't go through with it. Something about Natalie's true character coming out during the wedding chaos. Harper, it's a complete nightmare. Natalie's at the venue in her dress. Guests are leaving and Diana is threatening to sue someone, probably Natalie. I sat down on the park bench watching Emma on the swings. Part of me felt vindicated. But another part, the part that remembered braiding Natalie's hair when she was little, felt sick. Where is she now? I heard myself ask. Still at the venue. Aunt Beverly's with her. Harper, she's asking for you. I shouldn't have gone. I know what you're thinking, she didn't deserve my help. But I called my neighbor Ruth to watch Emma and drove to that waterfront venue anyway. But maybe I'm weak. Or maybe I'm just not as cruel as I wanted to be. When I walked into the bridal suite, Natalie was sitting on the floor in her $3,000 dress, makeup ruined, surrounded by half-empty champagne bottles. Aunt Beverly stood guard at the door like a protective mama bear. Natalie looked up at me with swollen eyes. You came. I'm an idiot, I said. But yeah, I came. She let out a broken laugh. Preston left a note. Want to know what it said? She pulled a crumpled paper from her bodice. I can't marry someone who treats her own family like garbage. If this is how you treat your sister, how will you treat me when things get hard? My mom was right about you. I stood there not knowing what to say. Diana knew, Natalie continued. She told Preston about what I said at the engagement party. About hiding you and Emma. About how I was embarrassed by you. She recorded it on her phone, Harper. She played it for him last week and he started pulling away. Then when the payment disaster happened and I told him it was your fault for being petty, he asked me what I'd done to deserve it. I told him about the text. About uninviting you. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand, smearing more makeup. He said, you're not the person I thought you were. Then this morning he was just gone. Aunt Beverly caught my eye and slightly shook her head, like she was warning me not to feel too sorry for Natalie. I lost everything, Natalie whispered. Preston, the wedding, his family's respect. And for what? Because I wanted to impress people who never really liked me anyway. Here's where it gets really unexpected. My phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Is this Harper? A man's voice. Deep, uncertain. Yes. This is Preston. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you about your sister. I stepped out of the bridal suite. Natalie's eyes followed me, terrified. Preston. He sighed heavily. I didn't run away because I don't love Natalie. I ran because I needed her to understand something and I couldn't figure out how else to do it. My mother has been in my ear for months about how Natalie isn't good enough, how her family isn't impressive enough, how she needs to act more sophisticated. And I watched Natalie turn into someone I didn't recognize, trying to meet those impossible standards. Okay, I said carefully. When I heard what she said about you and your daughter, I was disgusted. But then I realized, my mother made me feel ashamed of my own cousin who has Down syndrome. We didn't invite him to the engagement party because Mom said it would be uncomfortable for guests. I went along with it, Harper. I'm just as guilty as Natalie. I leaned against the wall. This conversation was not going where I expected. Where are you? I asked. The airport Marriott. I know this is insane, but I need you to do something for me. I need you to ask Natalie if she still wants to marry me, knowing that I'm done trying to impress my mother. That I want you and Emma at our wedding, front row. That I want my cousin Jake there too and my aunt who my mom calls trashy because she has tattoos. I need to know if Natalie wants a real marriage or just a performance. My heart was pounding. You're asking me to be your messenger? I'm asking you to help me find out if the woman I fell in love with is still in there somewhere. Because if she is, I'm coming back. We'll go to a courthouse tomorrow with whoever actually matters to us. No fancy venue, no impressing anyone. Just real. I walked back into the bridal suite. Natalie looked at me with desperate hope. Was that him? Yeah. And you're not going to believe what he just said. What happened next changed everything for all of us, in ways I never could have imagined. And the biggest shock is still coming. I told Natalie everything Preston said. She sat there in her destroyed makeup and expensive dress, processing it all. Finally, she looked up at me. He wants to know if I'd choose him over his mother's approval, she said quietly. If I'd choose real people over the performance. That's what he said. She laughed bitterly. The answer should be obvious, right? But Harper, I've spent a year trying to be perfect for them. I became someone I hate. Her voice cracked. I became someone who hurts the people who actually love me. Aunt Beverly sat down beside her. So what are you going to do, baby girl? Natalie looked at me with tears streaming down her face. I need to ask you something first. Harper, is there any part of you that doesn't completely hate me right now? Honestly, I wanted to say yes, I hated her. But looking at her sitting there broken and alone, I saw my little sister again. The one who crawled into my bed during thunderstorms. The one who cried at Mom's funeral and held my hand through the whole service. I don't hate you, I said. I hate how you treated me. There's a difference. I'm so sorry. About the text, about Emma, about everything. You're an amazing mom and she's perfect and I was so cruel. Stop, I interrupted. If you're apologizing because Preston gave you an ultimatum, save it. But if you mean it, if you're really done trying to be someone you're not, then we can talk. After you figure out your own mess first. She nodded, wiping her face. Then she did something that shocked me. She pulled out her phone and called Preston. Come back, she said when he answered. Not to the venue. To Harper's apartment tomorrow morning. Bring your cousin Jake. We're getting married at the courthouse and the only people I want there are the ones I actually pushed away trying to be impressive. She paused. And Preston? Tell your mother she's not invited. Not until she can treat people with respect. I heard Preston's relieved laugh through the phone. I'll be there at 9 a.m. After she hung up, Natalie turned to me. Will you stand up for me tomorrow? As my maid of honor? I know I don't deserve it. You don't, I agreed. But I'll do it anyway. For the sister you used to be. And for the one you're trying to become again. The next morning, Preston showed up at my apartment with his cousin Jake, a sweet 24-year-old with Down syndrome who kept hugging everyone. Natalie arrived in jeans and a simple white blouse, no makeup, hair in a ponytail. She looked more beautiful than I'd ever seen her. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. As we were getting ready to leave for the courthouse, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Diana, Preston's mother, standing there in a designer suit. I know I'm not invited, she said coldly. But I'm not here for the wedding. I'm here to speak with Natalie. Preston stepped forward. Mom, I told you. Let her speak, Natalie said quietly. Diana looked at my sister with an expression I couldn't quite read. I came to tell you that you've made a huge mistake. My son deserves better than a courthouse wedding with. She glanced around at all of us with obvious distaste. This. Natalie stood up straighter. You're right. Preston does deserve better. He deserves a wife who values real relationships over appearances. He deserves to have his cousin included in his life. And he deserves a mother who doesn't make him feel ashamed of the people he loves. Diana's face went red. How dare you? I'm not done, Natalie continued, and I felt pride swell in my chest. I spent a year trying to earn your approval and I hurt people I love to do it. I'm done. If you can't accept me as I am, then we won't have a relationship. But Preston and I will be just fine without you. Diana stood there speechless. Then she did something that shocked everyone. Her rigid posture crumbled and she sat down heavily on my couch. My mother-in-law treated me exactly like this, she whispered. For 30 years I tried to be good enough for her. I swore I'd never be like her and yet here I am doing the same thing to you. The room went silent. Emma, who'd been coloring quietly, walked over and offered Diana a crayon. You look sad. Drawing helps. Diana looked at my daughter, the child she'd wanted hidden, and something in her face broke. What's your name, sweetheart? Emma. I'm very sorry, Emma. I was very rude about you and that was wrong. What happened in the next hour changed everything. But the real surprise. It came at the courthouse and none of us, not even Aunt Beverly, saw it coming. At the courthouse we were a strange little group. Preston and Natalie, Aunt Beverly, me and Emma, Jake with his infectious smile and surprisingly Diana who'd asked quietly if she could come after all. Natalie had looked at Preston and he'd nodded. The ceremony was simple. 5 minutes, basic vows, a kiss. Emma clapped loudly and yelled, "Yay, Auntie," which made everyone laugh. It was nothing like the elaborate wedding Natalie had planned, but watching her face I could tell it was exactly what she needed. Afterward we went to a diner for lunch. Emma sat between Jake and Diana, chattering about her stuffed animals. Diana actually listened, asked questions and smiled. Real smiles, not the tight, polite ones from the engagement party. "I owe you an apology too," Diana said to me quietly while the others were looking at the menu. "I judged you without knowing anything about you. You're raising a wonderful child alone, working hard, and I treated you like you were invisible. I'm ashamed of myself." "Thank you," I said, not quite ready to forgive completely but appreciating the effort. Then Natalie stood up, clinking her water glass nervously. "I need to say something to everyone." She looked at me. "Harper, I can't undo the terrible things I said. I can't take back uninviting you or calling Emma an embarrassment. But I want you to know that I've asked Preston if we can set up a college fund for Emma from our wedding budget money that we got refunded. It's not enough, but it's a start." I felt tears prick my eyes. "Natalie, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. And I'm also done with the big house hunt. Preston and I found a smaller place and we're going to invest the difference into actually helping family instead of impressing people who don't matter." She turned to Aunt Beverly. "Including helping you finally get that knee surgery you've been putting off." Aunt Beverly's hand flew to her mouth. "Girl, you don't. We want to. All of you have been there when it counted. I'm just sorry it took almost losing everything for me to see it." Preston put his arm around her. "We both learned something. My mom and I had a long talk this morning before I came to Harper's." He looked at Diana. "She's going to start therapy to work on some things. And Jake's moving in with us next month because his parents need help with his care, and we want him there." Jake lit up. "Really? I get my own room." "Your own room, buddy," Preston confirmed. "Here's the part that really got me. As we were leaving the diner, my phone buzzed. It was a bank notification. Natalie had transferred $50,000 into my account with a note. For Emma's future. And for everything I took from you while being selfish. Love you, sis." I grabbed her arm in the parking lot. "Natalie, this is too much. It's not enough. Dad left us both that money to take care of each other and I only thought about myself. Let me do this. Please." We hugged for the first time in over a year, really hugged, and I felt her shaking with sobs. "I'm so sorry, Harper. I'm so sorry." "I know. We're going to be okay." Over the next few months things slowly healed. Natalie and Preston had us over for dinner every week. Diana actually became a doting grandmother figure to Emma, which none of us saw coming. She taught Emma to bake cookies and even apologized to her directly for being mean about her before. Jake thrived living with Natalie and Preston. He got a part-time job at a bookstore and never stopped talking about how happy he was. Aunt Beverly got her knee surgery and recovered beautifully. She still came over with Thai food and wine, but now sometimes Natalie joined us. Did everything become perfect? No. Natalie and I still had moments where old patterns tried to resurface. But the difference was she caught herself now. She'd stop mid-sentence and say, "I'm doing it again, aren't I? I'm sorry." The biggest change was in me, though. I learned that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, it was necessary. That standing up for myself and Emma wasn't selfish, it was survival. And that sometimes the people who hurt us can actually change if they want to badly enough. 6 months after the courthouse wedding, Natalie threw Emma a 4th birthday party. It was at a park, nothing fancy, just family and a few of Emma's preschool friends. As I watched Natalie helping Emma blow out her candles, laughing as frosting got everywhere, I realized something. That text message, "You and your kid just embarrass us," had almost destroyed our family. But in a weird way it also saved us. It forced everything into the open. It made Natalie see who she'd become. It made me finally stand up for myself. And it gave all of us a chance to start over, this time as our real, imperfect, messy selves. Was pressing that cancel button the right choice? I'll never know for sure. But I do know this. Sometimes you have to let things fall apart before they can be rebuilt into something stronger. So what do you think? Did I handle this the right way or should I have done something differently? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed hearing my story, I'd really appreciate a like. It helps me know I'm not alone in dealing with complicated family stuff. If there's something you didn't like or think I could have done better, please share that too. I'm still learning and growing just like everyone else. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It means more than you know.